Welcome to our exercise coaching call for Monday, not November, October 6th. We started doing these calls in September, and I think they've been helpful. We've had great discussions. For some people, it might be that you're wanting to do an intensive. That's what kind of prompted having these calls in the first place, is saying, oh, you're doing some exercise now. Does anyone want to do more for a period of time? There were some cool research studies out of Italy that showed that when people did exercise intensives, they really benefited. And I don't think everybody needs to do 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for a month, but most people probably do have a certain threshold, and you need to get above that threshold to really benefit the most from exercise. For some people, that might mean doing exercise at least 3 days a week. For some people, it might mean doing it, doing something every day. For some people, it might mean doing a couple hours multiple days a week. So that is the tricky thing, is we do not know for each person what it takes to get the most out of exercise. So it's something that ideally you get started wherever you're at. You do that, and then you say, could I fit in a little bit more? Could I push and work a little bit harder? Or could I add another day? Could I add a little bit more time on certain days? So that's kind of the goal, is keeping track of those things. And then these calls are a place where we can discuss, are there any barriers to that? Are you having any challenges getting started or progressing? Or do you have any question in general with exercise? So last week we had a special guest, Leanne Vitale, who's an occupational therapist, because in the Italy study, they did 3 hours of exercise a day. 1 hour was kind of more cardio endurance exercise. The second hour was more mobility stretching, like power moves. And then the third hour was more occupational therapy based, which included, all sorts of different things for different people, depending on the person. And that's what Leanne came to talk to us about last week, is some of the most common things that she works on with people. Our goal is that people could find an occupational therapist in their area to work with whenever possible, because working with someone is going to be really helpful. But I also think that with any exercise, some of what you do can be self-directed. And so just kind of understanding what OT is really helping people live their lives to the fullest, and identifying, throughout the day, I have to get dressed, I have to bathe, I've got to make meals, I want to go out, I'm going to play, with my dogs, or get together with my grandchildren, or I have a job, or I have hobbies. And it's, can you do all those things as easily and as well as possible? And if not, what things are challenging? And then how would you work on that? So I think some of that can happen. You as a person could say, like, what's going well? What's not going well? If I want to get better at this thing, how could I do that? But she came on last week, shared some with us, answered some questions. So first off, I just wanted to see if anyone else had any follow-up or questions or thoughts from her joining us last week. Anybody have any questions or thoughts? Yes, Gail, go ahead.
Um, Last week I finished my last OT appointment. I had never gone to OT before. And I went there specifically because my right hand was getting hard to move. But after this session of working with her, I've made an improvement. I wanted to show you this. This is therapy putty, and it's like, do you remember the silly putty that used to come in the Easter egg kind of thing? This is putty that's dense like that,
Mm,
and and it the colors go from extra soft, then medium, then firm, then extra firm. And they are really, they're really fun to work with. And
mm.
they, I got them on Amazon, and the set cost 15.99, I believe.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I found one that looks might not be the exact same brand, but looks similar. That has the different colors. What brand is yours?
Um,
It looks like it has more colors than this.
um, it says therapy putty.
And so what kinds of exercises are you doing with the therapy putty?
Um, well, um, some of them are pretty simple. You make it into a snake and uh, and you can connect it like a donut, and then you put your fingers in and spread them apart.
Oh, cool. And yeah, you can push into it so much that you like actually maybe even break the putty or separate it.
Uh-huh.
Very cool. Oh, here's one that has this one's $18. And I see because just when you were holding up the black, I was like, okay, that's different than these ones that are all colorful. This one looks
That that
like,
that looks like it,
mm-hmm,
and it comes with a machine inside that that breaks down little exercises for you.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also saw when I just did a quick search, it looks like there's videos on YouTube, for ideas too. So again, if you can work with an OT one-on-one and they give you exercises, that's ideal. But if you do not have access to that, then getting something like this and getting some exercises that come along with it and then looking up other exercises, that's a great one. I like it's just there's so much variety for what you can do with it and the different strengths, the different, is it so the thickness of the putty is different with the different colors? So like how hard you have to work to move it is what is different?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. And and you'll want to get something that has firm in it. Firm or extra firm is good.
Yeah, so this one goes for
Um,
has extra soft, but then the blue is firm and the black is extra firm. The gray is soft, which that's weird because that means they didn't really put it in order, but whatever. Because I see the gray next to the black. But yeah, they have it labeled, so that's good. I'm gonna put I'll put the link for this in the chat. And this is what hopefully this Fathom AI does. If I tell Fathom AI, okay, on Amazon, the 6-pack Theramandu therapy putty kit, please put a link for that. We will see if the AI does that for me. I really hope it does because that's the kind of thing that will make my life a lot easier. But I put the link for this in the chat if anybody wants to get that. And Gail, thank you for sharing. What is kind of crazy to me is you have had Parkinson's for a very long time. So the fact that you haven't really had OT before is interesting. And I'm glad you've gotten some now. It's cool to hear that your hand function is better and that it's not as tight. And that's just getting started with these exercises. So if you continue, it will keep getting better.
uh-huh.
Awesome. Anything else from your experience with OT that you'd like to share, Gail?
Um, I'm uh, Leanne covered it really well. I have a neuro OT out here, so so that was nice.
Yeah.
Instead of just somebody who had a whole thing of OT stuff. Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when finding an occupational therapist, if at all possible, a therapist that is more neuro than ortho, because a lot of OTs, again, I mean, they can work in all different settings. Some specialize working with kids, some are in the hospital. And for all of us as physical or OT, physical or occupational therapists, where we work and who we work with has a lot to do with what our skill set is. So if it's an OT that mostly works in inpatient, like they're used to getting people out of bed and figuring out, like, is this person ready to go home? That's a very different skill than saying, okay, we're now in an outpatient setting and you want to work on your fine motor dexterity. You know, those are different skill sets for a professional, for an occupational therapist. So whenever possible, you want to work with someone who's specializes working with people who have neurologic conditions like Parkinson's. But in some cases, I mean, again, if you live in an area where you don't have a lot of options, then if you work with an OT who is game and willing to learn and work with you, they still can be helpful. But you're probably going to be teaching them some things along the way. They're going to be learning as they go. But a lot of therapists, you know, want to learn, and anything that they learn while working with you, they're going to be able to use with other people that they work with. So it can be really helpful. All right, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Oh yeah. And Gay is saying, you know, thank you for sharing putty. No physical therapist or OT has suggested anything. And yeah, that sometimes that is because you're working with therapists that aren't that great. Sometimes it's because you're working with a therapist who's, you know, just focused on one thing. And there might be a lot of other things that could be helpful that we don't necessarily bring up or mention. But yeah, when it comes to if your hand is tight, so Leanne talked about, like, you know, you want to be doing stretching exercises, which you can do manually with one hand. You could wear a brace, but stretching is going to be better if you're actively using the muscle. So something like putty, where, yeah, you might have it like on a table and then you push to spread out the putty, or like Gail was showing, like you make a circle and you put your fingers inside and then you're actively opening up. That is going to be better. Like you could do just strengthening or just strengthening or just stretching, but it's actually best if you do those things together. Like that's what the power moves are. We are moving our body and strengthening at the same time we're stretching. We're not just lifting our leg up in the air and holding it there. That would be like if you just, you know, stretch your fingers back. Okay, that might stretch your hand out a little bit, but you're not strengthening the muscles that you need to use to then functionally use your hand. So it's going to be better if you're doing things like putty and active activities where you feel some stretching and you also hopefully feel some strengthening happening at the same time. That's going to work better in terms of getting better. And it's also more efficient than having like two step, like I'm going to stretch and then I'm going to strengthen. Like, how about we do that together? Do it at the same time. And it's more real life. You know, when we need flexibility or strength in our hands, it's because we're doing things with our hands. And so there's going to be more carryover with your activities if you're doing active things like that. All right. Anybody else have any thoughts or questions about occupational therapy stuff? So the other thing I did was I asked ChatGPT for a list of occupational therapy activities. And this was also really interesting. I'm going to share my screen to show you. I thought I had copied and pasted that list, and now I don't know where it went. So I'm going to just do it again. So if we go to chatgpt.com, you don't have to log in. Oh no, that is not. I misspelled ChatGPT. ChatGPT.com. So I'm going to stay logged out. You don't have to log in. Give me a list of occupational therapy activities for an adult with Parkinson's. Let's see. I'm going to put outpatient. Let's see what it comes up with. So there's a lot of maybe things about AI that's not so great, but there are some things where it's really helpful. So here's a practical list of outpatient occupational therapy activities tailored for an adult with Parkinson's. These activities target key areas affected by Parkinson's: motor control, coordination, ADLs is activity of daily living, cognitive function, and emotional well-being. So cognitive and executive function activities, task sequencing games, calendar planning and scheduling, memory exercises, problem-solving tasks, dual task activities, fine motor and hand dexterity activities, theraputty right there, pinching, rolling, pulling, clothespin or pegboard tasks for grip and finger coordination, buttoning, unbuttoning, practice shirts or boards, coin sorting or bead threading, handwriting practice, ADL or IADL, self-care and home management, using adaptive equipment if that's helpful. So OT especially, they're going to give you exercises to help you be able to do things in your life better, but sometimes they're also going to give you things that just make life easier. Or sometimes when it comes to grip, it's a lot easier to hold something that's a little bit bigger grip than smaller. So sometimes they might add, kind of a build-up handle to your toothbrush or something so that it's easier to hold. Meal prep tasks, laundry folding or towel rolling, simulated grocery shopping, gross motor and mobility exercises. So this is where there can be a lot of overlap with PT in some of these activities. Leisure and psychosocial. So what do you enjoy doing? What are your hobbies? Do you have hobbies that you want to be able to do better or easier? Or do you want to try some new and different hobbies? Technology and adaptive equipment training, freezing and bradykinesia. So these are really Parkinson's specific things. Cue-based obstacle navigation, initiating movement, sample session structure. Wow. So this already is super helpful. So then if you said, maybe it's handwriting you want to work on, please give me more specific ideas for practicing handwriting. So here they say ChatGPT said, absolutely. Handwriting is often significantly impacted by Parkinson's due to symptoms like micrographia, tremor, rigidity, bradykinesia. Below are specific targeted handwriting practice ideas for outpatient occupational therapy sessions. So large letter tracing and writing. Start with bold, oversized letters, uppercase and lowercase, using a dry erase board, high contrast worksheets, chalk on blackboard or sidewalk. Progress to freehand. So starting with copying, progress to freehand copying, verbal cues, big and slow, lift and land, go tall can help, writing guides and adaptive papers, signature practice, sentence completion, copying meaningful texts, timed writing tasks, handwriting and visual cues, fine motor warm-ups before writing. I mean, this is beautiful. So now I just have to figure out exactly how to get this into our summary with Fathom. But this is how like ChatGPT could be used. If you say, okay, I have an hour that I want to practice, you can go onto your computer or even onto your phone in a web browser, go to chatgpt.com and say, please give me some specific exercises. If you then look at those and you're like, those look too easy or that's kind of boring, then you put that in the prompt. You say, okay, I want more challenging ideas, or I want, so you basically tell ChatGPT what you want and it'll keep giving you these ideas. So here, tips, avoid fatigue, practicing in short focused blocks, build success, normalize frustration. So I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, does anybody want any ideas for any specific things? Like, does anybody have any specific tasks that they would like ideas working on? All right. Well, does anyone then have anything else about OT questions, thoughts? Otherwise, we can move on to just regular exercise discussion about anything that anybody wants to talk about.
I have a question for OT.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
It gets really hard to fold, when I'm in the off time. Is there any strategy that you've seen about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for one, I think we would look at it and say, does folding need to happen during off time? Like, yes, there are probably exercises that can help you be able to do anything better, but also, can you just kind of set up your day and your schedule to help you be successful? so that you feel as good as possible throughout the day, that you're active and you're doing things. But maybe you don't have to do hard things during an off time. Maybe part of scheduling your day is saying, okay, here's when I feel more on, here's off times. I want to make sure to get in some good exercise when I'm on. And of the things that I need to do today, folding laundry or towels or something tends to be something that's a little bit harder for me. So I'm going to do that during a time where I feel better. If you do need to do something during an off time, there are a few things that can help. One is to do just a brief guided meditation to kind of help calm your system down a little bit. Being off obviously can be stressful. And then when you feel more stressful, that kind of can make you feel more off. And it's just like this vicious cycle. So trying to break the cycle of how you feel when you're off, getting in a different position, lying down, taking deep breaths, listening to some music, going for a walk, getting the blood flowing. So kind of doing something different wherever you are. If you kind of feel stuck or off, what is a way that you could do something different that helps you feel better? And sometimes you need to experiment with this. So, different things work for different people. For some people, lying down on their back and taking deep breaths is really helpful. For some people, movement is helpful. Like they go for a walk. And when you start walking, you might feel really stiff and slow. But if you walk for like 5 or 10 minutes, you might really start to loosen up, even produce a little bit more dopamine and feel better. And then you can come back to that activity. So if you're trying to do something and you feel really off and stuck, I definitely would say stop. Because if you just keep doing it, it might take a long time and you might be very frustrated while doing it. And then you start to internalize that frustration. And every time you go to do that task, you feel frustrated. So if it's really frustrating, like step away. There are most things we can step away from, at least for a little bit. Step away, get a glass of water, take some deep breaths, go for a walk. And, I'm saying like for 5 or 10 minutes, you don't have to step away for a long time. But if you get away where your brain can do a little bit of a reset, where you can move your body, then ideally you can come back to the task, but feel a little bit refreshed and better, and then be able to do the task better and more efficiently. But there might be some times where you just say, okay, this is not the time that I'm going to do that thing. And that's okay too. There aren't very many things where it's like, it has to happen this exact second. And sometimes you may just have to like power through and do something even when you're off. But if you can just take a break, take a moment, and try different things, try movement, try breathing, try a few power moves, try something to kind of break that cycle. And then that's where keeping a good diary of your on and off times helps you and your doctor, maybe a little bit more you, figure out, what is the right dose for me and what is the right timing for me with regards to medications, and continue to make those tweaks so that you feel as good as possible and minimize your off time as much as possible. So I think, Sarah, like you have been under medicated for a while.
Yes.
And so hopefully with the changes that you get to make now, hopefully you start to feel better. But keeping close track of things is going to help you continue to make little tweaks to see, what's really the best dosage and schedule for you throughout the day.
This is something I don't know if it's an off time question or if it's just like consistently this way, but my one side of my body moves so much slower than the other side. Does that tend to be consistently that way, or is that something that happens with off time with Parkinson's, or is it different for everybody?
Parkinson's tends to affect one side more than the other. And, some people, the difference is subtle, and some people, the difference side to side is really dramatic. So that I'd say basically is, that's your Parkinson's symptoms and experience. Medication should help both sides, but you may feel, even when you're on, you may still feel a difference between the two sides. So that is normal to feel a different side to side. The degree of kind of impairment on one side, that is something that really varies depending on the person.
Well, my question is like, from an OT standpoint, like doing household tasks, but also the incredible library of videos you have on Rogue with tricks to get people to get both sides of their body moving on the treadmill or on other activities. That's what I would like to really hone in, and I wish we lived near you, but just figuring out how to like Is that a goal that would be good for this exercise intensive to try to figure out how to get both sides to work together?
Yeah, definitely. And one, I'd say, that is definitely something to pay attention to with your medications. How much, when you take medication, how much does it help that side that's more affected and slower? Because that's going to give you information about whether you're on the right dose or not. If you take a pill and it still feels like that side is really slow, I would say you are probably still under medicated in terms of the dose and the amount that you take per dose. So depending, have you gotten a chance to get Dr. Alscog's book and read any of that yet?
That's the new Parkinson's one.
The
Yes,
new
I checked it out at my library and it was beautiful. Yeah.
So what he has people do is, start at one pill per dose, but go up to 1.5, two, 2.5, even three. Three is the most, he says, that really should be taken at one time, that there are diminishing returns or benefits. But if you've only ever tried taking one at a time, I would highly recommend trying like 1.5 or two. Of course, under the supervision of your doctor. Don't do it just because I said it, but I think that that is something you need to experience is how do you feel different with those different doses? Because if you only take one pill and you're under medicated with that, it's really hard to out exercise or to use therapy to address symptoms when you're under medicated. You can certainly do things and it will be helpful, but the amount of improvement you're experienced is very limited when you're really low in dopamine. So I really think that trying not just, I think your doctor said you could take one pill 6 times a day. Like if it were me, I would want to experiment. What if I took 1.5 pills 4 times a day? That's the same total amount in a day. But what does it feel like if you take 1.5 pills? Or what does it feel like if you take 2 pills? Because that's what Dr. Alskog says, is that you need to figure out what is the right dose first. And then you need to see how long it lasts and how many times a day you need to take it. If one pill is too little for you, it doesn't matter if you take it 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. If it's too little, you're never really going to feel that much better. So that's still something to keep working on. And then in terms of exercise, basically, I would say most of the time when people are exercising, if one side feels slower and smaller, they really have to focus more of their effort on that side. One side might hopefully move a little bit more automatically, but the other side, you're really going to have to think about move big, move faster, really exaggerate that side when you're exercising with it and really send that extra signal to that side. And then it will get better. Then that will help it get better. The other thing I was going to say is a lot of times what works for the brain in terms of moving bigger or faster is having targets. So when people have freezing, which affects walking is one of the most noticeable places that it affects, or even just shuffling. If your feet want to take slower, smaller steps, if you put tape lines on the ground, or if you draw lines on a treadmill, that really, for most people, that really helps them step bigger is to have a target to step to. So you can do the same thing with your arms. Like if you want to work on reaching bigger, knocked over my water, but I have too many things on my desk. If you want to work for reaching for things, like if you're at a table, you want to set those items at a certain distance away from you and then reach for that item. So reach forward to grab that item, bring it back, reach forward to grab that item. So use targets to help you to move faster. It might help even when you're folding laundry or something. If you play music that has a little bit of an upbeat, beat to it, and hopefully kind of helps you be in a little bit better mood because it's music you enjoy, but music can be very powerful in helping you do things. And if there's some things where you try to move on the beat, maybe you skip actually folding the laundry for a second, but the song is on and you're like, well, I'm just going to reach forward and back on the beat just to get those arms moving bigger and faster. And I'm going to do that for 10. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to fold a towel. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to flick my hands open or do some other exercises for 10 to the beat. And then I'm going to go and do the next thing. So a lot of times, if you do other exercises to get yourself moving a little bit better, then when you go to do the task, the actual task will come out better and you'll be able to get through. Even if you do some extra things in between, you will still be able to complete the task faster than if you just focused on the task. Does that make sense?
Yes. So moving big in the movement will help to compensate. But would there also be counter strengthening exercises to do with that side so that the muscle that's collapsing it, crippling it will be strengthened opposite?
Yeah. So yes, on one hand, shoot, the first thing you just said was, oh, I've just
You,
missed. Remind me, what was the first thing you just said?
I just said that I heard you saying that we should move big. The
Yes.
second thing
Oh,
was strengthen.
yes. So yeah, first off, basically almost everything you do, you want to do big. So you want to live your life in a very exaggerated way. When you go to reach for something out of the counter, when you're walking around the house, you want to like live with drama, move big, and you might feel silly doing it. And you can totally tell the people in your lives, like anyone that you live with, tell them, hey, Parkinson's is trying to make me move slow and small and take away my facial expression. And I want to fight back against that. So I'm going to exaggerate. I'm going to move big. I'm going to move fast. I'm going to be more dramatic with things. You can let them know so that they hopefully know why you're doing it. And then they hopefully support you in doing that. They might even remind you, hey, are you being dramatic this morning? And help you move bigger. Because the more you do it, the more you're going to retrain your brain for those bigger and better movements. So yeah, you want to try to move extra big as much of the time as you can. Then when it comes to strengthening, things like the power moves, checking out the fine motor videos are good. Otherwise, that's when working with a therapist one-on-one, they would be able to look at exactly what, is tight or what movements aren't going well and give you specific exercises to counteract it. So that's helpful, but you can, hopefully you can do that to some degree yourself. If your hand or fingers are tight and they want to flex and close like this, then working on opening them without resistance, with resistance, supported on a surface, like, power moves where when we're on hands and knees and we're supporting on our hands is really good for that. But yeah, if you can kind of identify and say, okay, I'm tight in this way, I want to get more flexible, and I also want to strengthen the muscles on the opposite side. So that's something you probably could put into ChatGPT. Is there a specific muscle group that you would say is tight for you? Like, does your hand want to tighten up?
I'm a pianist, and when I try to play the left hand, it just is so lagging, but also opening the hand wide doesn't happen quickly or well. Those are kind of, but then just like scrubbing dishes or my hands or scrubbing hair, you can't get that friction or that reciprocal motion or
So yeah, so going big definitely overall is something to help with. And then I haven't played piano in a long time, but they acknowledge, okay, this can be challenging. Here's some specific piano exercises and off the bench prep activities. I don't even know what that means. Designed to help improve left hand function for piano playing. So
meaning
five
you
things.
can do it. You can do it without being at the piano. You can
Got it. Okay. So on the piano, left hand exercises. So keeping your hand in the fixed C position, playing the ascending and descending patterns. So one thing I'd say is, any activity, sport, hobby that you like doing, sometimes you're going to feel like you have to relearn that activity. So it's kind of starting from the basics. Like, do you remember when you first started learning to play piano, what were the exercises you did to work on that dexterity in your hands? Because, most of us, some people naturally are very talented with instruments and things, but most of us started and had to learn. And then you practice so much that you, at some point in your life, probably got really good at it and it was automatic and second nature. And now basically there's something that is interfering with your brain connecting to the muscles in your hand that's making it harder to play. So for one, if you kind of go back to basics and start from the beginning, and again, even with your fingers, even when it's fine motor dexterity, you want to go big. So when you're playing piano, normally like you might be able to go kind of quick and smaller movements, but especially on that left hand and really on both hands, exaggerating what you're doing. And you may have to slow down your playing first to go bigger. So you're going to go bigger and slower with your hand movements. But as they get more flexible and those big movements become more comfortable, you'll be able to speed things up again.
Sweet.
So yeah, 5-finger scales, focus on even tone, relaxed hand position. And you may find that like, if you start playing, if it gets a little bit stiff, it might help to do some finger flicks or, put your hands together and stretch things out and then go back to it and keep playing. Hanen exercises. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Hanen
Not very
exercise
fun.
number one. This is like ChatGPT has access to everything. So yeah, slow just the left hand. So that's another thing. Obviously, a lot of piano playing is both hands, but you may want to do some practice where you're just isolating and working on the left hand so that you can really direct your attention there. And what you're working on, anytime you're practicing a skill, any skill, you are working on the actual body part. So if it's your left hand, you're working on the flexibility and dexterity and coordination and timing with your left hand. You're also working on the control of that movement from your brain out to your body. So both things are affected in Parkinson's. Muscles themselves get stiffer, and also the part of your brain that controls that movement, it's actually the opposite side. So the right side of your brain that's controlling the left side of the left hand, the actual circuitry for those movements can be affected. So dopamine really facilitates those neural connections. So when your dopamine is lower, those connections don't happen as easily or as well. So when you are practicing, you're practicing both. You're practicing your hand getting stronger and more flexible, and you're also practicing the control from your brain to your hand. So broken chord patterns, left hand rhythm drills, mirror playing, fast line creation. So ChatGPT has a lot of ideas for things to do.
I'll check that out. That's awesome.
And then off the bench fine motor prep. So ChatGPT isn't the Fathom AI that I'm using isn't necessarily going to have this written text. I don't know exactly what the summary of this call is going to look like, but it may not have written text, but the video, excuse me, the video and the text it has, like if you say, oh, I want to go back and look at what those exercises were, the summary that comes out, you should be able to click on the line that says, oh, we're, off the bench fine motor prep for piano. Click on that and it'll take you right to the part of the video where we're scrolling through and looking at this. I got a tickle.
Fun. Sorry about the tickle.
Yeah, me too. It happened to me on Friday night too. I got a tickle and I couldn't stop coughing. So I'm just going to, no, that's not what I meant to do. I was going to walk over, turn my video back on. Let's see. Start my video. Spotlight. Gosh. Get distracted and then don't know what to click on all the wrong buttons. Okay, I'm going to walk over and fill up my water. So off the bench fine motor prep, finger tapping, tap each finger to the thumb individually, slowly, and then faster. Try tapping in reverse order, pinky to thumb. Do it while watching a mirror for visual feedback. So see, are you really moving big? Do that on one side, the other side, both sides. Finger lifts on a flat surface. Place your left hand on a flat or on a table. Lift one finger at a time, slowly while keeping the other still.
The speech therapy that Stephanie does is so amazing. My kids love to watch it, and they can tell when I'm going to start using the voice that she teaches us to use, right? Like if I have to do something hard physically, I'll start by saying goo, la, gung, right? And they'll all start saying with me.
That's awesome.
But it feels like these activities of daily living need something like that she set up, where you just have made it kind of fun and dramatic and routine, so that there's like a tone of voice, like a hat you put on to take the task, right? But there's so many activities. The other question I have is, so we talked about there's the aspect of strengthening and stretching that muscle, but then there's also the aspect of the mental connection. And sometimes it doesn't feel like Parkinson's has necessarily made me cognitively slow, but just that my cognition is so bogged down by having to be cerebral about movement. Like you're face at every single task. Like now you're going to lift the elbow. Now you're going to move the arm forward. Now you're going to open the hand. Now you're going to push this finger or whatever.
Yeah, that is a real thing.
Something.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
more you have to focus, it's just the brain is not meant to have to think about every single thing we do as we are, when we're a baby and kids and we start moving, things become very automatized because of the volume of practice that we get. And then we're able to move through our lives without having to think about things very much. And then when something changes your movement and you have to start thinking about it a lot, that becomes the primary thing that you are thinking about. And it is difficult to then do all the other cognitive tasks that need to happen throughout the day. So that's where, being on the appropriate amount of levodopa will facilitate that so you don't have to pay as much attention. And then also the amount of practice. So if you decide you want to get better at something, you really want to dedicate enough time to it so that you can practice enough that it becomes more automatic, because it is possible for it to get automatic again. But that's where it may be that if you have a bunch of different things you want to work on, it may be that it's better to focus on one or two things at a time so you can get enough repetition in, instead of spreading yourself thin and trying to work on 8 or 10 different things, but not getting enough practice of any of them to really experience improvement and kind of cross over that threshold. So I think picking, and then the good news is, like, if you practice piano, there's going to be a spread of effects from piano to other things, to getting dressed, to prepping food. So there will be a spread of effects from some fine motor activities to other fine motor activities. But yeah, so the good news is some things can help other things, but to get better, you really do need enough practice of certain things. And that obviously can be difficult because it can take time. And especially like initially, it might take more time to experience that first level of improvement. But then if you stick with it, a lot of times it's hard, and then it can start getting better faster. I'm just going to read these for the video really quick too. So we've got the finger tapping for off the bench fine motor prep for piano, finger lifts on a flat surface, ball rolling, piano key presses on a table, hand and wrist stretches, cognitive and rhythm support, practicing with a metronome, call and response, using the backing tracks or accompaniment apps to simulate real playing environments. So those are some really good ideas from ChatGPT. All right. Do you have any other questions, Sarah?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts or updates? Gay, how are things going for you?
Can you hear me now? Am I unmuted?
Yes, sorry. Hang on one second. Okay. So sorry about that. Go ahead, Gay.
Well, I'm having really good luck with my medication. I can get about 8 hours without side effects, which is just marvelous. I'm so grateful that you suggested I read that book again, because I had read the parts that applied to me several times and underlined them, but now it really jumped out what was going to seem like it would work for me. And so it was great. And last week, I'm a photographer, although retired, and I mentored some younger photographers photographing preschoolers for 2 days. And so I photographed them, and I could roll the ball off my head and catch it, and work in a tight space without freezing up. And it was just marvelous. So I'm so grateful for these coaching calls, Claire.
That is so wonderful to hear that update. And I'm so excited for you. That's
And
why I just keep pushing, figure things out with meds, because it's different for different people. Sometimes you need more or less or different timing, but there's just so much possibility if you can get to something that works for you.
And I think just working with those little kiddos, I just developed my own dopamine, or produced my own dopamine, and had so much fun. And the pain in my hip is back today, but it was gone last week. So I had a ton of fun, and I was real grateful.
Excellent. Ah, that's wonderful. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Hmm.
You can mute me again.
Okay.
Hey, Claire,
Yes.
can I interrupt for a minute? I wanted to share this with you. Have you seen this?
We don't have one exactly like that, but yeah, I feel like I've seen something like that before.
It's
So that is a ball that has a whole bunch of numbers on it and letters
and
too.
and letters, and it's called fireupyourbrain.com.
Mm.
Anyway, and when you buy it, then it creates a membership for you with them. And so I found about them on social media. So now I have social media feeds where the guy is sharing different exercises to do to help you cognitively.
Cool.
So anyway, it's kind of neat and kind of fun. And I showed it to my sister, who's a pre-K teacher. So she's wanting to get it for her kiddos just to help them. But he talks about eye movement, how that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he has different exercises. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you.
Very cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you can purchase this ball, and then it sounds like they have a subscription where they give you exercises. I think you probably could use it without that, but in most cases,
Right.
it's helpful to have somebody giving you ideas of what do I do with this thing.
And since I follow them on social media, well, every day or every other day, he's got a new little video out that's free, you know, and with a different exercise for you to do to help strengthen your brain.
Cool. I like that. And that's a pretty small piece of equipment, kind of easy to
Mm-hmm.
store.
Yeah. It's real bouncy, you know. It comes with a little needle so you can blow it up when it comes in, when it ships to you. But anyway, it's really neat. But I have two things I'd like to ask. One of them, and something I noticed, you know, with speech class, she made reference to Stephanie's speech class. And of course, we talk about doing everything with intent, from working our voice and swallowing to just other activities, doing them with intent. So I've noticed that if I ride in the car for a good period of time, then when I go to get out of the car, you know, you're stiff, right? And so then when I start walking, I'm walking kind of choppy. I'm not freezing, it's just choppy. And so I thought, okay, let's just walk with intent. So it made me stuck in my abdomen, my stomach, you know. I was like, okay, let's just, like you're going to work your stomach. I don't know what the right word is. I'm blanking out. But anyway, just tightened up my stomach and made myself stand up a little bit taller, posture better. And then I just started taking intentional steps, and it helped. And it surprised me because I've not had to use intent for that before. I've used it for helping me write or speak, but that made a difference.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's great to hear. And I think like another thing you can do if it is something where it's a long car ride and you feel it, you feel stiff. So if you know, okay, we're going to be at the destination in 5 to 10 minutes, you could start moving in the car a bit. You know, if you're not the driver, if you're the driver, you got to focus on driving. But if you're a passenger, you could say, okay, I'm going to start at my ankles and I'm going to point them down and I'm going to lift them up and I'm going to loosen up my ankles a bit from this ride. And then however much room you have, you could straighten your knees out and bend them a little bit back and forth. You could do a bit of marching. You could do some movement in the car as you're arriving to your destination, which may then help you feel a little bit less stiff. You kind of got those muscles woken up, get the blood flowing a little bit. And then when you get up and out of the car, it may be easier than if you've been sitting completely still for that whole ride. But then, yeah, if you just put a little extra effort into that movement, move with intent, kick those feet out in front, swing your arms big, then hopefully that really speeds up the time where you start to feel looser and more coordinated as you walk. And these are things I think feeling stiff from a long car ride, certainly Parkinson's can affect that, but I think it's a relatively common experience even for people who don't have Parkinson's.
Right.
So, but moving with intent and doing some stretches and movements before, I think can be helpful either way.
Yeah. Then I have one last question for you. My sister started playing pickleball, Janet, And so she invited me to go with her. So I was like really nervous about it because for one thing, I was never an athletic person growing up. I'm probably doing more exercise now in my life than I've ever done my whole life. But anyway, so I was like, okay, yeah, I want to go. I was a little really nervous about it because first of all, I was just like, I wonder if my body can do that. I mean, that's some fast reaction times and moving. So I got so excited because I was able to hit the ball back and, I was like, okay. And then I made a step, to go hit a ball with my left leg. And it was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, I don't know if you call that your hamstring and it goes all the way up to your sit bones. Is that your hamstring?
Yeah, on the back.
Anyways, yeah, on the back.
Mhm.
So I kind of pulled something with that and I felt it immediately. So on the way home, I could hardly get out of the car when I got home. And I was like, oh, shoot. So now and of course, I've been 3 more times since then. And I only had one other incident where I kind of made a big step, like you're going after the ball, and kind of felt something pull. So I was just going to ask you, what do you think should I just do some power moves to warm up before I start playing? Just go off in the corner and do some power moves like we do in class daily before I start playing?
Yes, I think that would be a great idea. I think getting there and either some power moves or walking for even like 5 minutes just to kind of get you warmed up. So if you say, okay, when we get there, whether it's around the court or kind of an out and back, some walking, some power moves would be good to kind of get you ready to go. I think while you're playing, if you notice, okay, here are things that I do that's similar to a class that my body's used to. Here are things that are different than a class. Then ideally you could say, okay, these things that are different than what I'm already doing in classes, I'm going to infuse those into classes, or I'm going to do some of that practice. When I'm exercising, whether it's, you do cardio in the morning, and if you notice, okay, it's a really big step, or there's something different about how I'm taking the step, it would be good to practice that so that your body is used to it. So yeah, warm up, power moves, practice some things that feel different in pickleball. The other thing is, if you're playing with people where you're playing for fun, I think you can tell them and say, sometimes I'm going to let something go. If it's really a big reach and that feels like, okay, if I really go for that, the chances that I kind of pull something or cause, it's not like you're unlikely to cause a major injury, but, we're trying to avoid minor injuries too. So you could say, there are going to be some balls and I'm just going to let those go. We're like, when I play pickleball and tennis and ping pong, I like to volley. Like I'm there to play and to hit the ball back and forth. I'm not there usually to be competitive or score points. So I think it's like having a conversation with who you're playing with and saying like, I'm here for fun. This is a really fun way to be active, but I'm not going to like put my body on the line to go for certain balls. If a ball is up above my head, I might just let it go, because going backwards is, for most of us, the most difficult direction to go. So if something really feels out of reach, I might just let it go. If something is to one side or the other and feels out of reach, I might just let it go. And to me, I feel like that should not be a big deal. There are some people who play pickleball though, who are super competitive. And so, there might be people who are not okay with that. So that's where it's important to have a conversation with everyone who's playing and say like, okay, is this competitive? Are we here for fun? Because, either way, my body and my health is super important to me, because I need to stay active for a lot of reasons. And so any activity that is a little bit riskier for injury, I'm just going to be really smart about it. And I'm not going to put my body on the line, and have an increased risk of injury. So I think just like communicating that like before the game with who you're playing and everything. And it's honestly what, again, everyone should be doing. Everyone should hopefully be having fun, but not putting their body on the line. A lot of injuries can happen with all different sports, and pickleball is really fun, but people get injured all the time. And so I think you can lead by example of saying, I'm here to play and have fun and be active, but I also have to feel good because I've got, more exercise to do tomorrow. And I don't want to have any type of setback that I have a big enough injury that that I have to really adjust my exercise routine too much. And then
exactly.
The other thing I'll say, if you do feel like you pulled something during a workout or something, I would highly recommend walking it off before you get in the car. So to play and then have an injury and then get in a car and sit still for 15, 20, 30 minutes, things tighten up more than if you said, okay, whoops, I pulled something didn't feel so good. I'm going to walk it out. You don't have to walk fast. This, it's not exercise. It's just giving your body a chance to kind of feel things out, keep the blood flowing, feel a little bit better. So if you keep moving after playing for like, again, 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, but keep moving, you will likely feel better than getting in the car and driving home than if you go straight from playing to getting in the car. So like a warm up is important. And this is where a cool down came from too. And we've had multiple people in classes here where they feel like they injured something. And the immediate response, I think for most of us, is to say, I should sit down, I shouldn't move. But in most cases, if it's moderate to a minor injury, it's not like, it's excruciating pain where you can't stand on it. If it's moderate to mild, keeping it moving is going to help you feel better rather than not moving.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's good.
You're welcome. Those are great questions and topics to bring up. All right. So Karen had a question. Is there a library of these calls? So yes, we have been recording these calls, but no, I have not made a section in the video library yet for the calls. So that is on my to-do list, both for this and for the stretch and flow class. I haven't made a section in the video library. So I will get on that ASAP. And then Sarah said, what a privilege to get to look at our weak places and decide what we need to do to strengthen where it needs it. So that is an excellent mindset and way to approach things. You could say, I can't do this, or it's hard and I'm really frustrated. Or you can take a deep breath and say, I'm in a place where I have an opportunity to make this better. And our mindset and how we approach things makes a huge difference in how we feel doing those things and in the outcomes that we have overall. I think mindset's actually the most important because, there are people who've had Parkinson's for a very long time and, they might have some significant limitations, but sometimes you talk to them and they're like, but I'm able to do this and I have this in my life and, I have these opportunities. And it can be really inspiring to see how people can, we all can make the best of what our current situation is. We can strive to make improvements in our life, and we also can appreciate what we do have in our lives as well. So great work. Anytime you find yourself going down kind of a negative thought process, it's okay to feel that way. We're not into toxic positivity around here. We don't have to be positive all the time. We can acknowledge challenges and also think about what our mindset is around those challenges and be kind to ourselves and see, can I reframe this a little bit so that it doesn't feel as bad as it initially did when that thought popped in my head. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining today. We'll see what this summary looks like, and I'll figure out exactly how to, I'd say what would be ideal is when I post the video that I then also copy and paste and put the summary in there. So we'll see if I can make that happen. I got to work on that a little bit too, but I will get it out to you and we'll see if it's helpful. All right. I'll see you all next week. And we do have our membership meeting, our regular monthly membership meeting tomorrow. So if there's any other questions about schedule, access to videos, anything about the membership, join us tomorrow at 1:00 and I will talk about things for October and then answer any questions that anyone has.
All right. Thanks so much, Claire. It was great.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Claire.